So, welcome to the On Purpose podcast, where we're here to live a life of purpose, to be flourished and fulfilled in all areas of our life. Kirk, I wanted to have you distinguish for us this week sacred versus special relationships.
Mm. Lovely. Well, let's start with sacred and special. So, special is special is a space of the ego. The ego wants to be special. The ego's job is to keep us, safe and alive and to promote its own significance. So the ego wants to set up your life where it's necessary to protect you. And so special is the demand of the ego for, exceptions. I keep wanting to use the word exception to ask for exceptions, but yeah, to ask for exceptions. The ego wants to ask for exceptions to the rules. The ego wants to be special. The ego wants to be held above others because if the ego is held above others, it's safe. Right. So if I'm special, if I get special treatment, if I get exceptional treatment or exceptional permission or whatever, then my ego's winning relative to the other egos. So special is something that the ego wants. For example, people often get in relationships with each other so that they can be treated special. Right. Oh, I remember for me, like my childhood, I had the experience of being very love starved. And so when I, had my first relationship, I the 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 um my ego wanted that attention. I got treated special, right? She was kind to me. She listened to me. She told me how great I was and all the things that my ego wants to feel safe and protected. So let me sit down special for a minute. Let me talk about sacred. Sacred is that which serves God. So a sacred relationship will be a relationship in service of God's will, of God's plan. Obviously, to the best of our ability to distinguish it, but the intent of a sacred relationship or a sacred promise or a sacred commitment or a sacred action, a sacred relationship would be what's in service of God's plan. Well, should I go left or should I go right? Well, let's see if we can hear what God would say to us. Let's pray on that. And if we're not getting an answer, then we may have to use our minds, but we'll use our minds to the best of our ability to anticipate or distinguish what would most serve God's intention. Special, on the other hand, is just to serve the individual. It's just about what makes me feel better, what makes me feel safe, what makes me feel special, and so most people are striving for special in some way. If I have a lot of money, I'll get treated specially wherever I go. If I'm a rich person, right, I'll be treated special. If I'm a beautiful person, I'll be treated special. If I'm a really charming person, I'll get treated special. If I'm a really powerful person, I'll be treated special. If I'm a person with a great reputation, I'll be treated special. If I wear the right clothes and people can see that I have taste, I go to the right parties, I have the right friends, I say the right things, I wear the right clothes, I drive the right car. It's all special, special, special. But the hit you get off of being special is temporal. It's temporary because it's just of the ego. The ego gets a hit, it wants something else. If you drive a Cadillac, then you're going to want a Mercedes. That's the Mercedes, you're going to want a Porsche. That's the Porsche, you're going to want a Lamborghini. And whatever comes after Lamborghini, I don't know. It's just like a drug. You're going to need a bigger hit all the time. Whereas in sacred, you're just simply following God's plan to the best of your ability, following God's intention to the best of your ability, and that's it. And in a sacred, I'm in a divine union with my wife. I'm in a sacred relationship with my wife. It's not special, it's sacred. And the purpose of our relationship is to better serve God. So together we are this very impactful force for the earthquaking movement, and we have been since we showed up. And we have very different skill sets and very different personalities, and we do very different things. But together, we're this incredible team that has definitely moved the mission forward. So that would be a sacred relationship in service of a sacred purpose. So I'll set it down there for a second.
Yeah, it brings in identifying, like, or discerning whether you're following God's will or your own preferences or your own
Yeah.
desires. And a lot
Yes.
of people right now don't even have the awareness of distinguishing that, for themselves. It's always been self gratification, or to get what our needs are and what we need to have met. And so how do they start, just how did you just start uh, discerning between God's will and your own?
Well, that completely showed up when my relationship with John. So before John, I was agnostic. I knew there was something out there, but it didn't really seem like something I was particularly connected to. I didn't really feel any particular gifts around prophecy or anything like that. I've never experienced that. Maybe on one brief occasion, but um, so when I met John, he was just so clear and so powerful. Now that didn't persuade me. He was very clear, very articulate. He was clearly dialed in. But that didn't really initially convince me of anything. It was watching him month after month, year after year, produce results that there's really no logical answer for. And so really I just got bludgeoned by miraculous results over time. I'm hard-headed, I'm often slow to arrive, but when I arrive, I'm kind of a force to be reckoned with, So this this fit that model for me. I was already deeply into transformation and very deeply into love as I understood it. So I didn't feel a necessity to make a fast move. Who I was and how I was being and how I operated was already incredibly effective. So there was no urgency for me to shift anything until I was really certain what I was shifting to was more powerful, more beautiful than where I was already located. And that has occurred, and I am on Team God. Yeah. uh, consider myself one of his warriors, should he, whatever, available for whatever required. And yeah, so I operate like we just this visionary 4.0 just came through and we're in the middle of that. And the Holy Spirit yesterday gave me the instruction to go ahead and start the next program, go ahead and start creating the next program. So I started that this morning. And so there's a next visionary program coming our way right after this one. We're not going to go back to 3. We're going to keep moving forward, which was not my original plan. I was going to, but there you go. That there's me surrendering the strategy of my mind in service of direction from Holy Spirit. And
Wow.
so we will march that way, and we'll see see where that takes us. So again, I have a sacred relationship with my work. My work has a very specific intent, which is to serve God's will. And in the past, my work has been special to serve me.
Mm. What's interesting is what I'm hearing as well inside of this right now is that when you actually do God's will, it does serve yourself in the highest and everyone else involved. It's like we don't recognize, we're like, oh wait, no, just let me try to get what I want first, God, and it's like, no, actually what you want is God's will for your life. That's what makes you happy. That's what makes you feel fulfilled,
Yeah.
and so wow, that's really beautiful. And to set down what we think our preferences or what we want down and listen to Holy Spirit, because that's ultimately what we want to fulfill. So, um, okay, so how do you nurture your sacred relationships and place boundaries for them to stay that way?
Boundaries against what?
Uh, to keep them sacred, like what are like just you have to have healthy boundaries set up to do that.
Well, so yeah, that's a good question. So I guess, we have someone here in our community who's deeply connected to Holy Spirit. And so that's kind of what we use to hear from Holy Spirit. Now, again, I didn't roll over on her either right away. I watched her for months and months and months and months, observe the fruit, observe the fruit, observe the fruit, observe the fruit. And again, it's just been ridiculously profitable, profitable in the sense of, taking us closer to miracle after miracle, her instructions bearing fruit over time, et cetera, et cetera. So yesterday was an example. We're all in a meeting together, and I had pretty much decided what I was going to do with the visionary program. We just got finished leading 3.0. We're in 4.0. I was going to go back to 3 and then create the next one, again. So I asked Holy Spirit, and I got a different instruction, which I just said, okay, we'll skip doing 3 next, and we'll go on to 4.1 or whatever I wind up calling it. And that's what we'll do. And then this morning, I began, I got my cards out and I'm looking at the distinctions, and I laid them all out so I can look at them. I've got several weeks to just kind of be with it and shuffle them around and look at it and feel into it. So started that process. So I'm not in a hurry. I'm not rushed. I'm not burdened with anything. I'm just kind of moving gently through the process of, actually creating both programs at the same time, I guess, leading one for the first time where we're literally creating the distinctions and preparing the next one for a similar journey. And so far, I assume it'll be a similar journey.
Nice.
Yeah. So, well, the answer to your question is, I've got 2 people in my life that I trust with regard to assisting me in staying on God's path. That's John and Tammy. And both of them, um, I watched for months and years to determine that was a good idea. And to your earlier point, I've never experienced more abundance in my life in every way. So I was prepared to I did lay down everything, and I had made that choice. I was happy to do that, but I live in more abundance than I've ever had in my life, more freedom and more abundance, and I have a life of purpose. Like, I'm not wondering what I'm doing with my life. I've spent a lot of my life, like, what am I doing? I'm just like chasing one paycheck after another, trying to get my bills paid. I just want to serve, but I have to, it's just like, it's so difficult to bounce around all these obstacles just to get an opportunity to serve, financial obstacles and all kind of stuff. And, I just don't have any of that now. I just have a free, clean pathway ahead of me. And I just get to serve in a way that it appears that I was built to serve,
Wow. So I'm hearing, like, just going back a little bit to what you were saying about the relationship that you have with John, and that it took a divine intervention, but it didn't even just take the divine intervention. It took a lot of time to observe someone and their conduct and the way that they move and operate themselves.
Yeah.
And you said that it was beyond logic, it was beyond reasoning, it was beyond anything that you were ever
Yeah.
taught. And
Yeah.
so it and same with Tammy. I mean, I've been witnessing this as well with Tammy as well. And so it's like
Yeah.
beyond our comprehension. And so the question that I have is what characteristics or values that one must hold to have these type of fruits, you know?
Well, with respect to John and Tammy, like, that's, I don't know, their their gift is a gift that I don't have. I have different gifts. with respect to myself, it was a decision. You know, it was a decision to use my life for something worthwhile. And specifically, and it wasn't originally serving God, it was originally like a world that works for everyone, or a world where people get to be free, or um, a world that really supports and appreciates leadership and and freedom to be, and freedom to think, and freedom to act, and freedom to choose your own friends, and freedom to speak, and freedom to move, um, and freedom to be extraordinary, freedom to be a leader, freedom to live a purpose greater than yourself. And so all that got transmuted beautifully into a covenant with God. You know, I'm here to join John, and I'm here um, to be a major contribution, have a major impact on this mission that we're stewarding all together, which is to bring heaven on earth. So that was relatively recent. I don't know exactly when, a couple years or something. But like since then, I've never looked back. I've never questioned my decision, and yeah, I've really loved it. I mean, I really enjoyed it. It would be difficult for me, I think, back in the States. Like I have gotten myself into, well, partially created, but gotten myself into an environment where I get to be appreciated for what I'm really here for. And I've never really experienced that when I lived in the States. And I don't know if it's a United States thing. It's possible we could have created this village in the States. I think it would have been much easier here. I think that's why we're here. But um, this who I am would be very difficult if I wasn't in a village with people who supported what I'm up to and who I am and what I'm up to. Now it's a symbiotic relationship because the seven of us that made it here provided this environment for us and the people who came later. But now we get to benefit from that environment as well.
Yeah.
Which I was not really certain would ever happen. Like when I agreed to this, I was very clear that the promise was big enough where it's possible it would not get fulfilled in my lifetime. Like I might give my life to something and not actually get to live in it. But I was prepared for that. But with regard to that, we're way ahead of schedule. Like I totally experienced living in heaven on earth. Totally experienced living in level 5, which for us is living a life surrendered to God, and I experienced abundance. So from what I was willing to do, I'm way ahead of schedule and living the life.
There's so much deep wisdom in what you just shared right there. And I mean, the profound thing that you said in the beginning was it was a decision. And
Yeah,
then I didn't question it. There was no questioning after it. And so there was like a phase of where you did, it's like, okay, well, I went through all the questions that I had, and then I made
yeah,
the decision. And once I
yes,
made that decision, there's no
yes.
question. I'm surrendered in it. I've given myself over to that. And
I really only ever had one question, which was, "Is this real?" And
oh,
that got answered in watching John for months and years. And then I just got checkmated inside of. I've always said that I observe the fruit. Judge me by my fruit. I'm not interested in your opinion of me. If you want to judge me, please do that, but judge me by my results. So I'm happy to be judged by my results in anything I do. Delighted, no problem. And so that's how I live, right? So I just watch John, result, and I'm sufficiently trained in what he's doing to understand what he's doing isn't what other people are doing. Like I'm very clear, to me at least. And so that was it. Yeah, it's like I'm as hard headed as anybody, but my saving grace is that I was willing to hold myself to the same standard. Well, if it continues to produce beautiful fruit, then get on that team. And that's really how it was for me. So it wasn't like it wasn't like God spoke to me from the heavens. It was like I was literally checkmated inside of how I'm committed to operating, which is results based. I want to be someone who produces results, impacts people with my words, with my coaching and my leading, impacts the world with my actions. This village and this beautiful team that we have here. So literally, I got checkmated inside of my commitment to um, be someone who produces outstanding results.
Oh, so that came from another decision for a previous one that you've made.
Yes, yes, very
It's all about decisions, guys.
good. That's very good. Yes.
Wow. And I loved how you also placed that your environment to be
Yeah.
able to have that being produced, like that they're supporting you, that they're getting up underneath you and lifting up what your special gifts are. And
Yeah.
what's even really beautiful is that there's so many diverse people that live in this village that
Yeah.
have different gifts, and they're all being acknowledged and
Yes.
respected and loved.
Yes. I love that. I love that. I love that.
Yeah, and so for anyone that's watching, like, your environment is your most important thing. Like, you can see the top 5 people that you surround yourself with, that's normally who you are and who you're becoming, and so get yourself into a healthy fish tank. And you mentioned the 4.0 version of the Visionary Leadership Program. Those links are going to be in the chat to support you and help you grow on this journey if you are inspired by this conversation. And I wanted to take this into a little bit deeper. We have a distinction here about body friends and soul friends, and it kind of ties into sacred and special
Definitely.
relationships.
Definitely.
So, um, can we interweave that and what's
Yeah.
coming up for you with that?
Yeah. That's great. This is one of my faves. So all my life until just a few years ago, I was all about body friends. What do I mean by that? Well, surrounded myself with people who made me feel good. People who liked me, appreciated me, thought I was funny, maybe thought I was good looking, maybe thought I was useful for something, whatever. And in return, I would make them feel good. You know, oh, great sweater. Oh, your haircut's amazing. That's a very silly example, but I find that most relationships are built around this. I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine. Now, obviously, we'll never talk about it. It's the fine print in the contract of the relationship. I'll make you special. You make me special. I won't call you on your stuff. You don't call me on my stuff. I'll do this little thing that you like if you do that little thing that I like. And so these are body friends, and body friends are highly distracting if you want to live a life of purpose. The Bible reference is, um, is it Peter?
Yeah.
So uh, Jesus is telling Peter he's going to Jerusalem and he's going to be hurt. He's going to be hurt. And Peter says, "This shall not happen. I will not allow it."
Not on my
Jesus,
watch.
none of my watch. Thank you. And Jesus says to him, "Get behind me, Satan." Now, Peter was the cool dude. He's the one that walked on water. Like, he was all about Jesus, right? But to Peter, Jesus says, "Stand behind me, Satan," when Peter tries to protect Jesus's body from being harmed. Fast forward, Jesus is in the square and Judas is with the guards, and Judas's job is to go kiss Jesus on the cheek to identify him to the guards, which he moves to Jesus and moves in to kiss him on the cheek, and Jesus says to him, "Do what you came to do, my friend." So on the face of it, that's ridiculous. Jesus was supposed to be the guy who turned Jesus, hurt Jesus, and Peter was supposed to be the guy who saved Jesus. But Jesus had a purpose, and he needed to fulfill his purpose. He needed to go to Jerusalem. He needed to be crucified. He needed all the things. That was his job. That was what he was there to do. And so anybody who stood in opposition to that was not his friend. And anybody who assisted him with that was. And so actually, Judas is perhaps the most hated man in history, but all he did was serve God. All he did was his job. all the different ways asked to do. Peter, on the other hand, failed Jesus at the test. When it was time for Peter to do what he was told to support Jesus in his mission, he did what he wanted. So Peter was special. Judas was sacred.
Mm.
Yeah, I imagine there'll be some blowback on that. I think that's going to upset some people.
I know it recomputes the whole brain of everything that we've ever been
Yes,
taught,
yes. So
Yeah.
I've made a public declaration in our community that I'm no longer seeking body friends, not interested. Not looking for somebody to go to have a beer with, not looking for somebody to trauma bond with, not looking for somebody to go explore hobbies with, not looking for a beach buddy.
Nice.
All I'm looking for is people who are ready to get up under this mission. And so some people find me aloof and arrogant and disconnected. That's fine. But the people with whom I'm serving side by side, shoulder to shoulder, serving this mission, find me to be a great resource. And that's what I choose to be, and that's where I choose to direct my energies.
Wow. You got a million reputations, but you only have one character,
Yes.
and so you get to decide what character you are.
Yes.
You have a decision to make.
Uh, reputations you have much less say about, even though people work on it all the time, because every person has a different interpretation of your reputation. So you really have most people spend their entire lives working on the reputation, meanwhile having no control over whatsoever.
Yeah, and I loved what you said the other day about that. You were like, just think about the past 10 years. You have that many people that you've encountered. That's how many reputations you have. And I was like, dang, that's a slap in the face real quick,
That's more than I could count.
I'm like, I don't want to keep up with that shit,
Right.
So
That's a lot. It sounds like a lot. In fact, it is. I was once somebody who was very committed to my reputation. Man, that's a lot of work.
yeah.
Man,
Yeah, you want to be loved. You stop trying to be liked. You want to be loved, and being loved is choosing to have soul friends, sacred relationships that are around you.
yeah.
Um, there was there's another element to this that's like the humility and being open for correction, inside of these relationships. You were talking about my body friends and they don't want to tell me what I, you know what I mean? Like that's what's up, they're not gonna say that, hey,
Right, because if they don't make you feel good, then you won't make them feel good, which is the whole point of the enterprise in the first place. So your body friends are not going to confront your dysfunction and tell you the truth.
which is the whole point of being here, being to be real, like, and we're not designed to be perfect or to like be something that we're not. We're designed to be who we really are. And so every time that we're seeking approval or significance or attention over who we truly are, we're leaving ourselves. And so how do you stay open and receptive to correction inside of these relationships?
Um, there's a conversation we have in the visionary program about confidence and humility. Confidence is born of experience and training. So of the things of which I have a lot of experience and training, I have a lot of confidence. And humility is born of faith and surrender. So whether I have a lot of confidence or not, my faith is in all things are working for good for those who believe and are called according to his plan. And my surrender is I am a sovereign being. I do have my life. I have my health. I have my wealth. I have my happiness. I have my relationships. I have my connection to God. I have my leadership. I have my purpose. I'm not looking to anyone else for that. I have everything I need within me right now. And so, and so, could you repeat the question? Yeah.
How do you stay open and receptive to
Yes.
correction?
Yeah. So, um, in my faith that all things are working for good and my surrender, I don't need to be right. I don't need to prove myself to anyone. All I need to do is just keep my attention on my covenant. And so if a better idea comes, if a better perspective shows up, if a better way of acting or moving or speaking shows up, that's an asset for me. Now I don't do what people tell me. I listen for the wisdom and I'm looking for the wisdom. I'm actively seeking the wisdom and I act upon the wisdom. Not all discernment. So not all discernment comes without judgment, you know? So sometimes the coaching I get is polluted with judgment or opinion or whatever. But what I'm interested in is a golden thread. If I can find the golden thread, I'll take it. I don't really care where it comes from. Meaning somebody who I should listen to says something stupid, I'm out. And somebody I shouldn't listen to says something wise, I'm in. It's like I don't care where the source is coming from. I care about the strength of the wisdom.
Mm.
And so oh, just over the years, I've just seen myself so many times be sure about something and be incorrect. So I know that that's a thing for me and everyone else. And so I have compassion for others when they miss something because I miss something every now and then. And so I know that no matter how confident I am or how effective I am in a thing, there are some things I do that I'm really effective in, like world-class effective. But that doesn't mean never miss anything. That's completely different. That doesn't mean there's not a nuance or subtlety or just simply a piece of information that I didn't perceive or someone didn't give me yet. Oh, I forgot to tell you this thing. Oh, well, that changes everything. Oh, now, thank you. Hold on. Give me a moment. Okay, now I have a new perspective. So, I just take so it's not significant for me to be corrected or coached about something or to get new information or find a new subtlety or new nuance about something. And if it's helps me be more effective, then I'm appreciative.
Why do you why do you think that humility is so important inside of yourself to have that characteristic?
Well, I get reminded of it all the time as people come into the village. They're like dead certain about who we are and who we're not and how this is supposed to go. And all of their assumptions are generally skewed from 1% to 100%. Like some of the ideas people come in with are diametrically opposite of what we do. Some people, it's just a little bit of a shift. But over and over and over again, I see people who are very certain about things and very disconnected about what they're certain about. And their certainty about something that they're actually disconnected about or incorrect about, sends them to hell, metaphorically speaking. Like they're suffering, they're upset, they're frustrated, they're disconnecting themselves, they're running away, they're talking, they're bad mouthing us, all the different things. So it's not difficult to see how I could fall into being dead certain about something. So I'm on the lookout for it. Whenever even when I'm leading a visionary program, that's a space in which I'm perhaps at my most confident, in that kind of general leadership training space. But I'm just this week, something I was sure about something. I got a new piece of information, dropped that, had a new assessment, tested that. That was the thing. You know, being a master at something isn't never being wrong about something. I am a master in leading. I relate to myself that way, but that doesn't mean my perspective is always correct or that my perspective is always the highest available. Another access to humility for me is my belief that there's no top of the mountain. So over and over again in my leadership training, I've had the experience of like, okay, I made it. Like I had an objective. I did years of work, got to the top of that thing. It's like as you're coming up to the top of the mountain, you're like, I did it, I did it. Oh my gosh, it's done. I did it, it's done, done, done. And you get to the mountain and then you look up and like, what's that? Oh, that's the next mountain. I didn't know there was a next mountain. Oh yeah, that mountain's bigger than this. Yeah. Also looks a little steeper. Yeah. And the weather looks a little worse. Yeah. Okay. So the first couple of times it was like heartbreaking. Like I thought I'd done it, 3 or 4 years in, I thought I'd da, 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 like, no, you're still at the first base camp. First base camp. Yeah, there's 10 more on this mountain.
Ugh.
So I've just been through that enough times to have a wide open space for this. Literally, no matter where I think I'm at, no matter what I've accomplished, no matter how easy it was to accomplish it, blah, 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 no matter what people say, there's plenty more to go, plenty more to go. I'm 30 years in and I'm absolutely certain there's plenty more to go.
Wow. Um, there was a part that was inside of what you communicated that hit me deeply. And it was about how people in their dead certainty take themselves to hell.
Yeah,
And I still struggle with watching it at
yeah,
times,
yes. It
and
can be painful to watch. Yes.
yeah, and like the people twist or spin your words and it sends them farther into their things. It's like almost like they're using it to justify or, to justify exactly where they are rather than to set themselves free or liberate themselves. And um I mean, we can see the whole world doing this,
Yeah.
and how did you step through that? Or do you still find yourself thinking that it's difficult to watch or, or how do have you overcome?
Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes. It is difficult to watch. I'm a highly sensitive person. Um, so when people are really hurting or really angry or really frustrated, like I have often have like a pretty big internal experience. But part of it is perspective, I guess. Like I've just seen hundreds or probably thousands of times someone letting that someone initially is dead certain about something eventually sees it a different way and is actually has that breakthrough, has that transcendence, has that freedom where they were once constrained and angry and dark and frustrated and all the things. So, and I have seen it, I've had that experience with myself a bunch of times. So, um, somebody saying themselves to hell with their dead certainty isn't the end of the game. Um, Now it is for some people, but it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be for anybody, and it definitely is for some people. At any time, someone can alter their perspective and take another look. And one of the gifts that we provide people here is giving people an opportunity to take a second look, to set down a perspective and take a second look. And for the people who don't choose to do that, I don't know what I don't know what anybody, I don't even know what my path is. Like it looks like I'm on my path. I get confirmation from people that I trust. I have an internal experience. I have external results. But, maybe tomorrow everything changes completely. I don't know. Like, I don't know what my future is. I don't know what my path is. I think I'm on my path. I love the path that I'm on. So if this is my path forever, I'd be happy with that. But my path, my direction has changed in the past, and so therefore I know it could change in the future. And since I'm no longer working under the authority of my mind and whatever I think or feel at the moment, I really don't know. I really don't know about this. People say, what once sounded to me incredibly wise. So if you want to know what the future is, just create it. And there's a lot of wisdom there. But we're in the next step now where we're not creating our future, we're following our future. So can you give me the question again?
Yeah, it was how do you deal with the difficulty of watching people
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
see
yeah.
them
So,
most?
I have learned to honor people's choices and honor people's decisions. So if we don't let people make their own decisions and leave, drive off a cliff, then they never have the opportunity to turn around. Sometimes people need to hit the brick wall, and the impact and the shatter is actually what they need to have everything fall apart so they could come together the way they were meant to. And if I'm in that equation somewhere, I'm leading a program or whatever, I'll be there to give a hand as the pieces are getting put back together in a way that actually works for love, for this person, for God. You know. But again, humbly, just I'm helping them put the pieces back the way they were meant to be, but I don't know how they were meant to be. I never have that information. I never have the information of what somebody else's path is. And so I am working with people to be powerful, to be free, to have their communications to be ridiculously impactful, to be able to use your mind and heart together to create worlds and language that people could step into and transform their lives. But what anybody does with all that is not my jurisdiction. And I only assist people in the things that I assist people with as they request it. So I'm not on a mission to convert anybody. I have a promise to continue to develop myself as a resource for what I'm doing, which is what I was just talking about. All in service of the more people who are in love, who are following God, who are on a sacred purpose, that looks to me like me fulfilling my covenant to God. As people are willing and able and desirous of what I have to give.
Yeah. Wow. What really just became really clear for me is like you don't know where you're headed, but you can still have your compass on the ship, you know,
Yes.
and you can dial it in. And what I'm hearing is like it's dialed to honor. Like you're honoring people, you're honoring God, you're honoring, and that's where it's pointed. You don't know exactly
Right. I don't know
what
where I'm going to end up, but I'm going that way.
I'm going this way. Yeah, and that's a really good indicator because I mean, you can definitely see it's like, okay, is this going to be disappointing? Before you make the decision, it's like, is this going to disappoint or honor? And you can really gauge it that way. I really appreciate this conversation, Kirk. Um, and anybody that's watching, I pray that you decide that you're worth having a sacred relationship with yourself, with God, with your community, with the people that you surround yourself with, and that lift you up, that want to make your true self shine. And you can do that here. We can support you in that here if that is resonating with you. And there is support links for you down in the description box below. I just appreciate you for being with us today. And thank you, Kirk, again.
Super well.